Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. We talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm your host, Jeffrey, and subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. Now, on Friday night, there's a really underrated Mountain West game with the Fresno State Bulldogs traveling on the road at the UNLV Rebels. Who do I think is going to win this game? Let's break it down. Now, Fresno State is 5-4 and 4-1 in the Mountain West to start this season. Jeff Tedford is back in his second stint as head coach of Fresno State, and he's done a pretty decent job as the head coach of Fresno State, and they're having a pretty good season this year. They won in week 1 over Cal Poly 35-7. That was a good win. Then they lost to Oregon State 35-32. Tough loss. Oregon State's having a good season in the Pac-12. Then they lost at USC 45-17. They were not competitive in this game, and USC is a really good Pac-12 team. Then they lost at UConn 19-14, and this one you could probably chalk up to the fact they had to travel across the country, and that's tough to do. And also UConn's much better under Jim Moore at head coach this year. Then they lost at Boise State 40-20, and that was a tough loss. Boise State's one of the top Mountain West programs, but now they've won 4 straight, and they beat San Jose State 17-10. That was a good win because San Jose State's having a good season. Then they won at New Mexico 41-9. That was a good win. And they beat San Diego State in a really close game, 32-28. And then they beat Hawaii 55-13. That was a good win because Hawaii's really struggling. And in that Hawaii game, quarterback Jake Haener at 327 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's a fantastic quarterback, one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the country. A lot of people don't even know who he is because he plays for Fresno State, but you should. He's a fantastic quarterback. Running back Jordan Mims at 123 yards and a touchdown. Running back Malik Sherrod at 74 yards. And wide receiver Jalen Cropper, 94 yards and 2 touchdowns. Fresno State has a great offense. Obviously, it's led by Jake Haener, who could definitely be in the NFL. They have really good weapons on offense to begin with. And on the defense side of the ball, defensive back Evan Williams at 4 tackles, the linebacker Phoenix Jackson at 3 tackles for Fresno State against Hawaii. Fresno State's defense has been pretty solid this season, and their offense is really, really good. Now on the UNLV side, they are 4-5 and 2-3 in the Mountain West to start the season. And Marcus Arroyo at head coach has done a pretty decent job to slowly build UNLV up since UNLV was really bad. And this is his best season so far, but they are still struggling to break through in the Mountain West. They won in week 1 against Idaho State 52-21. That was a good win. And then they lost at California 20-14. They could have won this game. California is struggling in the Pac-12, but UNLV could not get it done. And then they beat North Texas 58-27, and that was a good win. And then they won at Utah State 34-24. Tough road win there. Then they beat New Mexico 31-20, and things were looking up for UNLV. But then they've lost 4 straight, and they lost at San Jose State 40-7. They were not competitive in this game at all. Then they lost to Air Force 42-7. They're just getting blown out in these games against better Mountain West teams. Then they lost at Notre Dame 44-21. They tried to put up a fight at Notre Dame and it did not work. Then they lost at San Diego State 14-10. Tough loss, but they just could not get the win. And in that San Diego State game, quarterback Doug Brumfield had 207 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. He's a decent quarterback. He is turnover prone, but when he keeps the turnovers down, he can play. He's a decent quarterback, but he needs to improve on not turning it over. Running back Aiden Robbins at 115 yards, very solid running back for UNLV. And wide receiver Nick Williams at 94 yards and a touchdown, and wide receiver Ricky White at 62 yards for UNLV against San Diego State. UNLV's offense can play, but they have struggled at times to put up points. And on the defensive side of the ball, defensive lineman Adam Plant Jr. 7 tackles, and defensive lineman Jalen Dixon at 5 tackles for UNLV against San Diego State. And UNLV's defense in some games has been decent, but in some games they've given up a lot of points, so they do need to improve on defense and on offense for that matter as well. So who do I think is going to win this game? This game is at UNLV, and that helps UNLV out because UNLV is a better team at home. Most teams are. But UNLV has lost 4 games in a row, and they are really struggling to find ways to win. They are trying. They've tried to be competitive against some better teams, but Marcus Arroyo, head coach, he has improved UNLV from where they were not even able to hardly win a game. They are better, but they still have a long way to go on both sides of the ball on offense and defense to be one of the best Mountain West programs. And on the Fresno State side, Jeff Tedford, a really solid head coach. He's really helped Fresno State continue to be one of the better Mountain West programs, and they've been very competitive against some of their best opponents. Even when they've lost, they've been very competitive in most of their games against better opponents. UNLV, they've been blown out a few times. That kind of shows you that UNLV's talent gap is kind of wide. They're not as good as Fresno State on talent. That doesn't necessarily mean they cannot win this game, and I think they can win this game. But I'm going to go with Fresno State to beat UNLV on the road 31-24. Again, I think UNLV can win, but it's going to be very tough for them. They're a solid team, and they're getting better and better. They're not the team that they used to be when they were struggling to win a game. But Fresno State's still better than UNLV, and Fresno State with Jake Haener on offense is going to be too much for UNLV's defense. They're not going to be able to stop them enough, and Fresno State's defense is going to be able to stop UNLV's offense enough. And I got Fresno State beating UNLV 31-24. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below whether you think Fresno State or UNLV is going to win this game and why. And I will see you next time.